Bada bing, bada boom.
This one is a doozy. It was viral in China, and it all kind of unfolded January 2023, so like 4 or 5 months ago. A guard was patrolling the high school grounds. He worked for this massive boarding school. And when I say massive, I mean, I think they owned close to 600 acres of land. So it's a big chunk of land that he's guarding. He had to take his little guard dog, patrol through the woods, make sure that there's no trespassers, make sure no students are setting up a meth lab, no rogue chicken running about, and he would go through the stone paths. So it's not like the woods are completely uncharted territory. It's not like it's overgrown, the forbidden forest. You know, there's paths, there's trails to take. And he would just walk along. And some days he would be out there cutting down bamboo before it got a little impossible. But today, his guard dog had completely other plans. His guard dog would not budge. First, the dog was frozen on the path, and then slowly it turned its body towards off path and starts yanking at the guard. The guard gives it one tug, like, come on, let's get back on the path, but the dog absolutely refuses to stop barking. The dog is pulling towards the trees. The guard is, kind of curious. Normally his job is very calm, very peaceful even, but recently the disappearance of a high school student at the school, things had been different since then. So even walking through these woods, it made him feel a bit unsettled. It sent a chill down his back. He took one step off the path onto the crunchy leaves. The dog pulled on the leash until finally both of them were walking off the path and towards this abandoned shed on campus. Okay, it's not necessarily a shed per se. It's more like 4 brick walls that were set in place, and inside it was used to storage things so that they wouldn't be in plain view. And outside the 4 walls, there were linings of trees, like think privacy trees, but they're really tall, they're really big. They've got these humongous branches. It's honestly kind of confusing, so I'm trying to simplify it to make it digestible. The guard dog stops abruptly at this shed, and his leg and tail is stiff. Like all of his legs, his whole tail, his whole body is stiff. His head is pointed upwards like an arrow, and the guard stares at his dog, follows his gaze to see where is my dog looking, and at first he just sees trees. And then he's like, wait, what is that? In between the wall and the trees, in this small little gap, there was a body hanging. The 15-year-old student that had went missing 3 months ago had just been found on campus hanging from a tree by a pair of shoelaces. For the past 126 days, it seemed like the whole nation of China had been looking for this student. The campus had been turned upside down by investigators. I mean, it was absolutely gnarly. How on earth was he found just in the open on campus? This is a case that would bring conspiracies of a essay ring in school, a principal running an essay ring, a chemistry teacher that wanted to commit the perfect murder using chemicals, and even school bullies. Because of just how bizarre the death of this student is, it seemed like every conspiracy made sense.
This was huge.
Yeah.
Like I was reading news about people were saying like there was
panda blood. It was a blood donation.
Yeah, they were saying
wrong.
some governor needs some organ and then they kidnapped the kid for the organ.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Huge. And the conspiracies are wild. So let's talk about the case of the missing boarding school student. And this is a case that seemed to drive practically all of China mad. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. I did have a Mandarin speaker help with this research, not him, okay? A Mandarin researcher, and especially in regards to all the public theories, the threads that just catapulted this case into mainstream media, I wanted to make sure that we covered the most of it. And a lot of netizens, they were invested in this case. This received a ton of media attention in China, and there's just so much mystery, speculation, conspiracies about what's going on. So we're going to cover the most popular ones. But just a reminder, myself included, it's easy to get swept up in these conspiracies, but, this is a case that affected and still affects the lives of real people. So I think wild speculation is fine as long as it's done with compassion and grace. But let's just be mindful. So with that being said, let's get into the story. This story takes place in a boarding school in China. It's called the ZHI,
知
Zhiyuan High School, which boarding schools, okay, we know one person that was in a boarding school for a few years and it's completely anecdotal, but they said it was pretty creepy. Like, I don't know, maybe it's all the movies and books that make boarding schools feel like something is lurking in the background, but it's not just a big sleepover, you know? That's what they said. The first few nights feels like a big sleepover and then it's no longer fun. That's exactly how they describe it. It's just got an eerie sense. Now, today's story solely takes place in a boarding school, so I have to give you the rundown of the campus. There are two main buildings in this campus. There are a little bit of like small little one-story buildings here and there, but these two buildings are the most important ones. They're technically side by side. They're 0.06 miles away from each other. So it should take like a minute or two to walk from one building to the next, right?
Oh, 0.06.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's super close.
Yeah, that's
Holy.
like really close. I mean, there's some trees in between, but it's so close. Now, they're technically side by side, but like I said, there's a small little park that you have to cross. So one building is reserved for all the classrooms and most of the administrative rooms, like think your principal's office, all of these things, teachers' offices, HR. Then you take a quick little walk. Then you've got the other building. This is reserved for student dorms. And the campus is reminiscent of a college campus, but on a tinier, much smaller scale. I mean, outside of these two main buildings, they had a gym, 2 parks, soccer field, basketball court, tennis court. I mean, it's a pretty big school. And since it's a restricted boarding school, one of the appeals is that it is completely gated and fenced off from the general public. And students were not allowed to leave the campus without getting explicit permission from teachers or staff, because these are high school kids. These are not college kids. So this way, parents feel a lot safer about sending their kids to this school because it's not some sort of free-for-all. The kids are still under very constant, strict supervision. Everyone is treated like a high schooler and not like a college student. And this is all kind of important later. So anyway, the school has these 3 massive gates. Now, the biggest one is the main gate. It's huge, it's fancy, it looks grand, and it's used for big celebrations like welcoming day, graduation day. And then you have a second gate, you know, a much smaller one. And this one is used for outsiders to come in. So when you have parents visiting, maybe potential deliveries, they come in through this gate. Those types of instances, outsiders coming into the school. Then you have the last gate, the smallest gate. This was typically used solely by staff and students. Staff when they're coming in for work and students when they have permission to leave or for whatever reason. And side note, okay, this boarding school is kind of unique. This is the absolute first time that I've ever heard of this. And I don't know if it's common in China, but parents could board with their students.
What do you mean?
So each dorm room typically has a bunk bed and 2 students are placed in the room. So one gets the top bunk, one gets the bottom bunk. But sometimes one parent will choose to stay with their kid at the school. So they share a room and they share the bunk beds. And a good amount of parents chose to do this at this particular school. I think there was 90-something parents who lived on campus. That's my biggest nightmare as a parent.
You know, China's parents are so obsessed with kids' grades. It's almost like, let me live with you so you don't have to worry about your day-to-day.
Oh.
So all you can do is study.
Yes, that's exactly why. So while the kids focus on studying, the parents will focus on tidying up, cooking meals, running errands, cutting up fruit, just making sure that their kid is actually studying. Yeah, so back to the setup of the school. It's gated, and the fact that the most of the school was fenced off was pretty impressive, considering the fact that the school had 2 parks on the property. Students were allowed to use them, and this is, again, not like some sort of forbidden forest type of scenario. One of the parks is about 4 acres, very, very small, and the largest one was about 589 acres.
Jeez.
Yeah, so to put it in perspective how massive that park is, it takes an average student about 2.5 minutes to walk through the 4-acre park.
Right.
It takes about 6 hours to walk through 589 acres.
589 acres?
Yeah.
Central Park is 843 acres.
Oh, yeah.
This one is like more than half
Massive.
of that. That's
Wow.
crazy.
Wow. Yeah. So it's huge. I mean, the big park is huge, but again, don't get me wrong. It was designed to be somewhat usable for the students. There were these paved stone walkways. There were these trails that led through it. So if you want to go hiking or if you wanted to go sit on a bench inside the woods, students could do that. It's not like this wild, haunted, overgrown, uncharted territory that's just looming behind the school like, oh, I'm going to kidnap you. Students would actually frequently wander through the park looking for a quiet, peaceful place to put down a blanket and to study. Now, on October 14th, a 15-year-old student by the name of Hu Xinyu,
Hu Xingyu,
let's call him Xing was not looking for a peaceful place to study. Instead, on October 14th, he walked into those woods and he never came back out alive. The last time that he was seen alive was October 14th, 2022 at 5:49 p.m. Xing was seen walking into his dorm building. He checked the time. He had about 10-15 minutes max before his next study hall class. So his next study hall was at 6:20 p.m. And the class technically starts at 6:20 p.m., but the teacher wanted all of the students to arrive 15 minutes early. So truly, he only had about 10 minutes before he had to make his way over to the school building. He did not go into his room. Maybe he didn't want to lay down if he has to get right back up. So instead, he goes to the 5th floor of the dorms and walks out onto the balcony. So they've got this little mini rooftop area.
Wait, where is he walking from?
So he walked from the school building back to his dorm building. And he's got like 10 minutes left, you know? So he's inside of his
supposed to walk back to the school building because he has a class in 10 minutes.
a study hall. But instead, he walked all the way to the dorm building, walked to the 5th floor, and went out onto the balcony. Now, this balcony overlooks the forest/park behind the dorm building, and he's just standing there alone, staring out into the woods. So he spends about 2 minutes there, and CCTV does see him heading out at 5:51 p.m. So we see him walking to the balcony and then walking out at 5:51. He was just there for like 2-3 minutes. That's it. So now he's like, okay, I gotta cross the small park to get to the main school building to show up for my study hall. And he's seen walking on the CCTV cameras at a somewhat leisurely pace. He doesn't seem rushed, which he's not late, so he doesn't have to be. He doesn't seem angsty. He just seems like he's enjoying his nice little walk. He turns into the park, and that is the last time anyone has ever seen him. It took a little while for people to start panicking. The students were expected to be at the study class 15 minutes early because there were always late students. So usually the students would even be late for that. The students would come 5 minutes before the class, which is fine as long as the teacher can start the class on time. She didn't care. Now, Xing was not early. He didn't even make it when the class was supposed to start. But even then, teacher A, this is a fake name, she always knew that there's at least like one student who shows up super late, like 20 minutes after class has already started. So teacher A thought it was just strange though, because Xing was never that student. He was never the one that showed up late. He was always early to class. She tries to focus on her lesson and didn't really start worrying until about 30 minutes into her lesson, and she realizes, wow, he's still not here. Now, like I said, this is not college where students can opt to not show up for certain classes or study halls. Xing is supposed to be here and he's not, so there's a problem. She knew something wasn't right. She excused herself, went into the hallway, pulls out her phone, and starts talking. She starts placing calls to administrators, other people. She's like, hey, can you guys go check for Xing in his room? Maybe he fell asleep, but he's supposed to be at study hall. For whatever reason, the kids said that the students in the class said that they felt something was off. They felt like something was amiss. The way that she was outside for so long talking on the phone, the energy was just strange. I mean, oftentimes you can imagine that kids skip class because they took a nap, they fell asleep, or they lost track of time, whatever excuse, but it felt amiss, okay? Eventually, it was announced to the class and administrators that Xing was missing. He wasn't in class. The administrators went to his room to check for him there. He wasn't there. Found it empty of Xing. Nothing was moved or packed. In fact, all of Xing's belongings were still there. So his phone, money, wallet, watch, everything valuable and important was left in that room. The only two things that they could consider missing were his student ID and the recording pen that he took everywhere. So this little recording pen was something that he recently bought, and he would bring it into all of his classes and record all of the lectures so that he could bring it home, import it, and listen to it over and over and over again as a form of studying. That was it. Those two things were gone. Oh, and Xing was gone. Now, the school does not immediately call Xing's parents right away because, I mean, imagine they call every parent to tell them that their child is missing when in reality, they're playing hooky, they're taking an extra long bathroom break, they're making out in the woods. Like, you don't know, right? Instead, they focused a ton of their energy in searching all of his friends' dorms and all over the dorm building and the school building for Xing. And it wasn't until they were absolutely certain that he was nowhere to be found that they made the call to his parents. He was last seen at around 6 p.m. His parents received a call at around 11:21 p.m. Mr. Who? This is Teacher A, your son's study hall teacher. Xing didn't make it to study hall today, and he's not in his room either, and we couldn't find him anywhere on campus. He did attend the last classes, so I'm sure wherever he went, it can't be too far, you know? But it's just been a few hours, so we wanted to alert you. Now, Xing's family, they live 3 hours away from the school. His dad and his aunt, they get into the car, they rush over. They get there around 2 a.m. That's as fast as they could be. Xing's mom, on the other hand, she worked in a completely different province, so think working in a completely different state. She couldn't get to the boarding school until about 11 a.m. the next morning. So the whole family, they arrive, and they're rightfully nervous, they're rightfully upset. I mean, like, what do you mean he's gone missing? I mean, the whole reason that we sent him to a private boarding school and pay money every single semester, like, isn't that part of what you guys are supposed to do? Make sure that the kids are safe, or at least accounted for? Like, what on earth are you talking about? He's gone. So the family speaks to everyone, Xing's teachers, his classmates, friends, anyone that might have seen them that day, and nobody was a great amount of help. All they mentioned was, I mean, he was fine. Yeah, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. No, I didn't notice anything strange. He didn't seem like he was acting strange. I didn't see anyone following him. I didn't see anything alarming. Yeah, just seemed like a normal day. Xing's family, they start getting frustrated because there is a lack of information here. The teachers are like, we don't know. He just didn't show up anymore. They're like, we are not communicating. I feel like we're not even speaking the same language. So they proactively, they print a ton of missing posters for Xing, place them all over the school. They had his picture in big, bold red letters. It read, missing person, 15-year-old male. No device with him that can help him communicate, only has a recording pen with him. He was last seen wearing a white t-shirt and a black zip-up hoodie, short hair, glasses, and was wearing black pants with white stripes down the side. If you have any information that leads to him being found, we have a reward of $7,000. Now, Xing's family, they stand at the massive gates of the boarding school, and anytime a staff member, a student, a parent, anyone, a passerby, a regular civilian, they would pass out these posters. They placed these posters all over the outside of this boarding school so that just regular civilians with no association to the school would also be on the lookout. The family was desperate. The police do get involved pretty quickly, and okay, even though the police get involved, the way that they're looking for Xing is very different. I think that the parents wanted them to look for Xing with such urgency, and it would be classified as like a criminal case. Xing's family is like, you need to look for him as if someone kidnapped him. However, the police went in there and looked for Xing as a missing persons case. So they did this with a little bit more leisure.
But missing person is...
Yeah. So I guess in China, it's classified as a missing person just means we don't know where they are. Does not mean that something bad happened to them. In order for it to be classified as missing persons criminal case, it means there needs to be some sort of hint that someone kidnapped them, someone took them, they got in trouble and something happened, versus missing persons is just straight up, we don't know the location of this person.
Okay.
They could have willingly run away. Yeah.
I guess it's all very similar, huh?
To the US, yeah. I mean, we just classify it as like a runaway versus a missing persons, but same thing, right? So the teacher, police, and Xing's family, they search the entire school property with the help of civilian volunteers. They look in every single room on the grounds. They check the pools, attics, roofs, everywhere. I mean, they went the extra mile. They drained septic tanks just in case. A team of searchers flew drones over the grounds to run 3D imaging and scans. They brought in drones that did thermal scanning to look for him in the woods. Again, nothing showed up. Are you guys seeing where I'm getting like, that's weird? Okay. It's weird. Civilians volunteered to search, and the local community, they really came together to help. A lot of people said people searched as if it was their own son that had gone missing. It could be pouring down rain, and people would be bringing in their own resources. They would come in with parkas, rain jackets, walking sticks. It was said that at the biggest size, the search party was like 2,000 people big.
Wow.
So clearly, this is not a half-assed search. I mean, keep this in mind because his body is found in a place that should have been so easy. So I'm going to show you a map for the visual people, but if you guys are just listening to the audio, it's like the next building over. The shed, I know it sounds like it's way out in the woods. I think it was 0.2 miles away. It's really not that deep into the woods. And it's a building. It's like right there. People know of its existence. It's not like this forbidden, like, oh, nobody knows what the shed existed. The students had no idea this shed was there. So they search everywhere. Everywhere. They're draining tanks. They're combing through school security footage, but nothing seemed amiss. When they see Xing, he's wearing a white shirt, black zip-up jacket, walking out of the dorm building at 5:51 p.m. He heads to his study class, and that was the last footage of him. Then poof, nothing. He's not seen ever again. He's not seen at the campus gates. He's not seen leaving the grounds. He's not seen coming back to grab something. He's just gone. The leader of the rescue said, it's as if he vanished into thin air. We're not going to give up, but we have no clue. They had already conducted 4 cross searches covering 90 acres of land, 12 buildings, 884 rooms, 11 underground pipes, 10 septic tanks, 10 water heaters, 9 water reservoirs, 2 lakes, 2 parks, 2 sports centers, 1 garbage dump, 2,238 residences near the school, 589 acres of woodland south of the campus, 226 temples, 159 businesses, 124 miles of riverbank, 72 ponds, 16 miles of railroad, and 25 nursing homes.
Wow.
They followed and eliminated 378 tips and cleared all the school personnel and students, including the 98 parents that were residing with their children on campus. They did not find a single trace of Xing. They didn't even find a goddamn clue. They found nothing that suggested foul play or even a runaway. I mean, that's the thing. They didn't find evidence of either thing. They found no evidence. None. Which meant that it was going to remain a missing persons case in the eyes of the law, which is not what the family wanted. Missing persons cases in China, like I said, are equivalent to runaway cases in the US. They are not treated with nearly the same amount of urgency that criminal missing persons cases get, which, it's like that here. So the Hu family, they're broken from the lack of nothing has happened. Their son is missing. They're doing all of this and nothing was found. Like the lack of findings and progress made it so difficult for them to even feel hope. To them, it just didn't make sense. There's a lot of anger there too of like, I sent my kid to this boarding school to be safe and now you're telling me you have no idea where he went? Xing's mom was also dealing with a lot of guilt. She said originally she wanted to be in the boarding school with Xing. She practically begged him, but he turned her down. And it's not like they had a bad relationship. They got along really well. But he's 15, and for the first time ever, he's like, Mom, I just want to experience a little bit of something different. Maybe next year you can move in, but it's my first semester here. I want to see. So the months leading up to the move-in, his mom would ask, are you sure I could cut fruit while you study and I could clean up for you? Mom, it's fine. You're 3 hours away. I'm going to be good. So even though Xing's mom was a little bit sad, she let him have his space and there was nothing that made her concerned for him or worried for him. Like Xing was a good kid. Both his parents, his older brother Tao, they adored him. Side note, his older brother is like 15 years older, so it's like his second dad, basically. Tao was adored Xing. Anytime he made a little bit of extra pocket money with his job, he would buy Xing new clothes, new shoes. They got along so well. Everyone that knew Xing, not just his family members, they said, yeah, that's the type of kid that you would trust to be alone in a boarding school. Like other kids, you'd be like, oh, I don't know if they're going to study. I don't know if they're going to listen to the teachers. But Xing, yeah. Neighbors remember seeing him walk 30 minutes to his grandmother's house a couple times a week on a regular basis because she was wheelchair bound. And he would take her on these